Welcome to Back to the Futures, the official podcast of the Futures Collegiate Baseball League, presented by Changeup. I'm Owen Shadrick, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Johnny Maffey. Johnny, we had manager of the Brockton Rocks, Mike Garza, on this podcast. He had an incredible experience in Virginia this past spring, which we talked about extensively on this episode.
Yeah, we heard about that dog pile as they punched their ticket in the Super Regional to get to Omaha. We heard about Omaha, and we talked a lot about what he does in Virginia, the ups and downs. And, they had a lot of ups this year, obviously, as they made it to TD Ameritrade.
Yeah, we talked to Mike about that park and his background, as well as this season in Brockton, which has been going very well. As we're recording this, the Rocks are currently sitting in second place. They're right around the top. They've been there all season, and they're really looking forward to this playoff stretch, as are we, as it's officially August. Welcome to August. Welcome to almost Futures League playoff baseball.
Yeah, when I talked about those ups and downs with, the course of a spring college season, but now ups and downs in the summer, a little bit of dog days, guys are tired. There's a lot of doubleheaders, but this stretch is going to be really exciting.
Yeah, we're excited for this stretch and excited for this interview, and we're going to get you there. So without further ado, we present our interview with Mike Garza.
Let's roll.
At this time, we are honored to be joined by our next guest, who is one of the new managers in the Futures League and was part of the incredible run the Virginia Cavaliers made in the College World Series. It's Mike Garza, manager of the Brockton Rocks. Mike, thank you so much for joining us today, and welcome to Back to the Futures. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming on, and we'll get to the elephant in the room right off the bat. The Rocks are in first place, and you guys don't seem to have any plans to step off the gas. How has it felt to be so consistent?
Oh, it's great. I think obviously having a group that comes in and day out and wants to excel, wants to get better, wants to compete on the field is obviously what you want as a manager. And we're just looking to kind of keep that motivation rolling and keep the guys with their eye on the prize towards the end of the season.
Yeah, and you came into a fantastic situation after interim manager Jack Aaron led the charge right up until the All-Star break. What was that transition like, coming right into a successful team led by Jack?
I think it was pretty seamless. I had been communicating with the guys almost every day, obviously communicating with Jack and Greg, and Jack did an incredible job leading this group for, that first, whatever it was, 20, 25 games. So, we had talked as a staff about what we wanted our expectations to be, how we wanted our guys to go about their work and what we wanted to do as a team. I think he executed that and was a tremendous leader. And so, for me coming in was just, kind of just been another piece into that puzzle.
Yeah, and Jack got to take the helm because you were down in Omaha, Nebraska with the rest of the Virginia Cavaliers in the College World Series. What was going through your head when you guys punched your ticket against Dallas Baptist in that Super Regional?
It was surreal, right? I mean, you can't even begin to, understand or grasp kind of the feelings that come with being able to, to have a trip to Omaha. And, our guys at Virginia did an incredible job. The resiliency that they showed throughout the season, if you go back and look at, what they actually did and what they actually overcame through that 2021 season was pretty remarkable. So, just to have been a part of that and experience it and, was really awesome for me. I'm really grateful for that opportunity. And then just really proud of, the guys on that team, the players, the staff members, support staff that were able to, overcome what we overcame and give ourselves a chance to play in Omaha.
Yeah, and we got to ask, what was your first reaction to TD Ameritrade Park, the field that seems to be saved for the biggest moments in baseball?
It's pristine. Obviously you see it on TV if you've been able to be there in person. I mean, it's essentially the equivalent to, to a major league field. Now, when you start putting fans in the stands and you've got school colors and you've got school chants, and it just adds a whole different dynamic to, what you're doing there and what the game is all about at that level.
And you guys had a couple futures leaguers on that team with the Geloff brothers, Zach and Jake Geloff. What did they bring to the team, and what did you see from them this season?
I mean, they're great players, obviously, first and foremost, but even more than that, they're just great people, great teammates, great leaders, and they were spark plugs for our team and really helped us kind of move in the right direction. Obviously, Zach, was a starter there for 3 years. Jay came in as a freshman and played a couple of different positions and contributed his part to the group. And, it's cool to see two brothers that are playing on the same team in Omaha. I'm sure is an awesome experience for their parents as well.
What's something about the College World Series that you learned that you didn't know as, you watched it on TV in previous years?
That's a tough one. I think, probably the biggest thing, you see the games on TV, but just the emotion that goes into those games, the passion from, the people in the community of Omaha, the fans that are traveling. I think that's something that you just can't, you can't replicate in other areas of college baseball. So, us playing Texas at, roughly 1:30 in the morning and, coming out from that rain delay at 10 o'clock at night and seeing the stadium still packed with people, those are the things that maybe you don't catch on TV or you don't realize as much until you're there in person.
Yeah, it's certainly, as magical as it is, I'm sure it's something that you really need to be there to believe. So obviously throughout the course of a, regular season, there are a lot of ups and downs. How are those ups and downs different when you're in Omaha competing, with 7 other teams for a title?
I think at that point, nothing matters, right? You're there and everyone's basically trying to win their last game and only one team's gonna be able to do that. So I think what you experienced and what you went through during the season can kind of help prepare your team and put them in the right mentality to be able to go out and perform. But when it's all said and done, how you got there really doesn't matter for the 8 teams that are there. It's just trying to win that last game.
Yeah, it was certainly surreal to watch on TV. I can't even imagine being there. That's got to be a fantastic experience. And kind of going broader into your time at Virginia, you've been there since 2016. So explain to the fans and the listeners what you do as the coordinator of video and scouting for the Cavaliers.
So, video has obviously become a big part of the game and player evaluations and evaluations for those guys in the staff to be able to see what they're doing on a daily basis and whether it's mechanical or, pitch selection or, pitch sequencing, things like that. So I would handle all of our in-house video, all of our opponent video to be able to put together scouting reports for opposing teams, opposing pitchers, hitters, essentially just, trying to gather as much information from, our own team and from our opponents to give ourselves, the best opportunity to win in certain situations, or at least provide us with, the amount of information that we need to be able to make informed decisions with the staff.
So that sounds like a lot of obviously you're very involved in season when you're dealing with opponents, preparing for games. But what about, when you get back to campus in the fall and winter roll around? What's your job there? Is it more the player development side? Is it video, like player evaluations, like you're saying?
Yeah, so we'll video our guys, through scrimmages, through different kinds of daily work, skill work sessions, and then those guys are able to go back and kind of review that if there's something that they're working on with their swing, if there's something mechanically that a pitcher is trying to correct. We're able to have all of that and kind of break it down, and it's something that it's easy for them to go back and view, whether it's after practice or when they get back to their dorm. That night we're able to put together all that. Really all that video so that they can go back and see it and help them make adjustments at a little bit quicker rate.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of all the new technology we have in the new video the game is seeing right now. So we talked about that part, but in season on game day, or say you're preparing for a big ACC matchup on the weekend, what's your role? Are you more working with the coaches or are you working directly with the players? How do you prepare for those games?
Probably more with the staff. Talking about potentially different situations that can come up, different matchups with, our hitters, their pitchers. What have they done in previous series? All that kind of stuff that goes into, eventually decisions that are made in game. Right? You obviously try and map those out prior to the game starting, and then the game's going to present different situations that you hopefully have planned for, but a lot of times have planned or haven't planned for. So I just think, the more that you're prepared with that stuff, the easier it is to make, good decisions.
Yeah, certainly trying to help out the staff and the players win games is super important. And before Charlottesville, you had an incredibly unique experience as a volunteer assistant at the U.S. Naval Academy. How did you end up coaching in the midshipman baseball program, and what was it like to be part of that experience?
That was an incredible experience. It was obviously something that was new for me, going into a military type setting and coaching, players who were, eventually going to be, servicemen in our Navy. But it was awesome. You're obviously coaching high class, high character individuals who are also, really good baseball players and really competitive kids that wanted to learn and wanted to get better. And I really enjoyed my time at Navy. I still keep in touch with, a lot of those players who are now, off either in flight school down in Pensacola or, training down in Quantico, and, being able to, really reach out to kids through the game of baseball, I think is really unique. Right. And that's why we coach and what keeps us coming back. That's where that gratification is. So I think the relationships that are built, through this game, are what really last, over the course of a lifetime for a coach and hopefully for a player if you're able to make a positive impact. And with those guys, it was, it was incredible just knowing what they're, going to set out to do here down the road. And you can't do anything really but admire, their decisions and the sacrifices that they're going to make.
Yeah, we have a tremendous amount of respect for them and what they're set out to do and what you're, like you said, your guys are doing right now that you coached a few years ago. How important is baseball to these kids, you think, and such a, unique experience at a military school?
I think it's incredibly important to them. Obviously they've got, priorities in terms of, academics and their military commitments. And I can't sit here and speak for them or for all of them, but I would imagine that, baseball is every bit of an escape for them in that, in that moment. I think a lot of them have aspirations of playing at the next level. There were a couple players in my time there that were drafted and had a chance to compete in professional baseball. And I think, it was an incredible program, very successful program with a lot of good players. You just have that added dynamic of, these kids going off to, make their sacrifices for the rest of us to serve, in the U.S. Navy. So, I think when it's all said and done, baseball for, a 19 to 22-year-old kid is really the same across the country. These kids just had a little bit more on their plate in terms of, daily responsibilities. But I think college baseball players are college baseball players and they love to play the game.
Yeah, again, these kids, sacrifice so much for both, their own baseball careers and for our country. So we thank them for their service, of course. And that's still, again, an incredible experience for you.
Before we box back to our interview with Rocks manager Mike Garza,
we want to share a message from our friends at 78 Sports. Do you have kids playing baseball or softball? We all know practice time is limited, especially here in New England. Not to mention the cost of lessons and cage time can add up quickly. Save yourself time and money by giving your kids what they need to work on their game at home. Our friends at 78 Sports can help you put together the perfect at-home training setup. Whether you want to start small with just a tee and hitting net or looking to set up a full cage with turf and a pitching machine, they have you covered. The team at 78 Sports has designed and installed hundreds of home and commercial sports training facilities, so let them help you plan the perfect setup for your space. Visit the 78 Sports website at 78sports.com. That's SEVENTY 8 sports.com. For a limited time, just by mentioning Back to the Futures, you'll receive a 10% discount off your order. That's SEVENTY 8 sports.com.
There's the bell. Time to return to our interview with Mike Garza.
And before Navy, you played pro ball. You were drafted by the Milwaukee Brewers. What was it like to get drafted and eventually play pro ball?
Oh, it was great. I obviously got to live out, a childhood dream and compete at the professional level with, some of the best players in the game, some of the best players from around the world, some of the best coaches in the game. So, it was a really unique experience. I learned a lot, in the 5 years that I was fortunate enough to play at that level and, got to play with some guys who are now, playing in the big leagues. And it's pretty cool to see those guys on TV, build relationships with players that, from all over this country, all over, the world again, like I mentioned, that you build relationships with and continue to keep in touch with. So, I cherish that time. Those are moments that you kind of live back to. And then now as a coach, you try to draw from those experiences that I had, whether it was, positive or negative, in terms of results, or, how to handle travel and late nights and early buses and late buses and broken down buses and all the things that come with, professional baseball is what you experience again as a coach. So you try to draw from those experiences, hopefully handle things either, the same way they were handled or better than they were handled when you experienced them.
So a lot of stuff in minor league baseball has changed a lot, hasn't, since you've played professionally. What's your reaction to the downsizing and everything going on recently over the last year or so?
Oh, I think at the end of the day, Major League Baseball is going to try and make the best decisions for the game to, either, help grow the game or push it in the right direction. I mean, I'd be talking out of line if I had the right answers or, really made any comments about it, just because I don't know, the ins and outs of, why those decisions were made. And, obviously I think, you've got a lot of players now that, when those downsizes happened, didn't have a place to play. And for me, I would think that, independent league baseball would probably see an uptick in some players as well, and potentially grow, the independent game that way, if there's not as many players that are, either getting drafted or signing free agent deals, with affiliated clubs. So, I think the game's going to continue to grow. I think, players love playing, and there's people that are willing to sacrifice to play the game that they love. So, I guess we'll see. Time will tell, how those decisions will impact the game down the road.
Yeah, time will definitely tell. And going back a couple more years, one thing you do know the ins and outs of is the Georgetown Hoyas baseball program. You played for current Lake Monsters coach Pete Wilk. You guys just played each other 6 times over a span of a week. Is it weird coaching against your former skipper?
It's fun. There's some words exchanged every now and then, and we're competitive with kind of with that rivalry. Obviously, Vermont's in a great position. They're playing tremendous baseball here in July, and Coach Wilk has them, clicking on all cylinders. So, that face off in the last those last 6 games has been they've been great games. I think they've all been close to 1-run games. So obviously we're playing some good baseball, and it's just a cool experience, to be able to, coach against, a guy who's been my mentor, a guy who, really helped guide me through this game, and help me not only as a player, but even now as a coach. And I lean on him for advice in different areas, and for his expertise. I think he was the head coach there for 20 years. So that experience and that knowledge is something that I try to tap into, whenever I get the opportunity. So it's been fun to compete against them this season.
Yeah, it's great to hear. So, they were on a 14-game win streak. You were going in to play 4 games against them. They extended it, and then you killed the win streak. What do you tell your players, if anything, when a team's winning 14 games and breaking win streak records?
We just handle our game, right? We talk to our guys about playing rocks baseball, and if we can do that, you're playing against the game. Obviously, your opponents are going to do everything they can to come out on top, but we try not to get too concerned with who we're playing against or what their record is or if they're hot or cold. I think if we can handle what we need to handle and we control the things we can control as a team, and we play fundamentally sound baseball, we're going to be in a good position to come out on top of those games. So obviously I think our guys know, what's going on, but from a coaching standpoint and how we relay the message to them, we try and control our end of the game. And that's really what we focus on, whether we win or lose, we're looking at how we prepared, how we played, what are things that we can do in those situations to be a little bit better or to make better decisions. And then, we roll back out the next day and do it all over again.
Yeah, great mentality to have, and you've had it all season. And come on, that's got to feel a little bit good ending Pete Wilk's 14-game win streak.
Oh, there's no doubt, right? I mean, you always want to be the spoiler. I think our guys, and our staff, obviously we want to finish out, on top with with where we stand in the league. And, I know that Vermont, feels the exact same way. So, we don't have those guys anymore down the stretch. So it'll be, I think it'll be a tight run, as we go back and forth, and, which will be good leading up into the playoffs.
So while you were at Georgetown, you received all Big East honors, and looking back, knowing what Georgetown is now and what that conference is now, what does that mean to you?
I'm honored to have received those accolades. I think a lot of it has to do with, the players that I was around, your teammates, the coaching staff. I think, in having transferred to Georgetown and played in the Big East with a lot of good competition, it's obviously something that, I'm proud of, but something that I have to give, a lot of other people a lot of credit for being a part of and for helping me achieve.
So we ask a lot of our guests about their college recruitment process or their transfer process, both of which you were a part of. But what we don't get to ask is about the process of being picked by the Brewers. So what advice do you give to your players that are going to potentially be in a situation you were in with, trying to get scouted and trying to talk to different pro teams, that whole spiel that a lot of these guys are going through and have gone through?
I think it's very similar to, our message to the team on a daily basis. You have to control the things that you can control. You don't necessarily control what someone's saying about you in a draft room, or, what type of, prospect they're looking for, or what the needs are for a certain club, or, how hard you think you need to throw or how fast you think you need to run. Right. So I think as a player, you've got to be able to kind of step back at the end of a season and assess, your performance and identify strengths and weaknesses, and then, build a plan with, either yourself or with a coaching staff or a strength trainer, or, whoever it may be, to kind of, build your game and push it in the right direction. So, I'm obviously fortunate that I was able to get drafted and able to play professionally. But I think a lot of what goes into that is, these players learning how to, control their own work every day, control, their plan, and be disciplined to their regimen, and to have to learn how to do it every day. I think the Futures League is great for that. We talked to our guys last night. We came off a tough loss to Norwich, and we've been on a pretty tough stretch here, since the All-Star break. We haven't had an off day. We've got one coming up in 3 days. You can see guys starting to, slow down a little bit. You can see fatigue starts to set in, and these guys have to learn how to handle that, to be able to play at the next level. It's what it's going to be like. There's going to be bus trips. There's going to be late nights at hotels. And so I think that just comes with, having a discipline to say, hey, this is what I have to do each and every day. And, I've got to be disciplined to my sleep. I've got to be disciplined to, the kind of food I put in my body. And then I've got to be disciplined to say, hey, once my cleats hit that dirt, it's time to go. So, I think these guys are learning that here in the Futures League, and I think they'll continue to learn it as they progress through their careers.
We heard that from you, and we even Carlos Pena was saying a couple weeks ago to us how great, a league like this is with those bus trips and those. You might not get like a great meal every time, although in the Futures they get some pretty good chicken nuggets, but stuff like that in Subway. But back a couple more years, we have to ask about this one. In Texas in 2008, Michael Garza was the high school baseball player of the year. So this is Texas. This is Baseball Factory, year-round talent grooming, Lone Star State, Texas. What was that like?
It was an awesome experience. So, I grew up in San Antonio, played baseball pretty much, my whole life, and was really fortunate that I, got to play with, some of the best players in the state from a young age. When we were back then, travel baseball was a little bit different than it is now. There was only, maybe 1 or 2 teams in our area at our age group, and 1 or 2 teams in Austin and Dallas. And so a lot of us knew each other, and guys who ended up being, eventual big leaguers. We were teammates when we were 12, 13, 14 years old. So you're constantly surrounded by, some of the best players that were going to play the game. I mean, I remember the All-Star game in 2008 at, I believe it was at Dell Diamond, saw Anthony Rendon playing He was out of Houston, and Anthony Rendon was playing shortstop. I was fortunate enough to be in that game. Taylor Youngman, who eventually played in the big leagues with the Brewers, was pitching in that game. I think he went on to be the collegiate pitcher of the year in 2011. Robbie Grossman, who has bounced around with a couple different big league teams, was in that game, and these are guys that we had played with or played against, growing up. So it was, it's an awesome experience, and I think a lot of it, again, can be attributed to, teammates, coaches, and then even the competition that we played against. Being able to play against, such talented players for such a long time, I think helps kind of groom the game, down there, and was definitely something that was impactful for me.
Yeah, looking around that diamond and seeing where those players are, that's got to be a cool experience to know that you were part of that as well. Before we return to our interview with Rock's manager, Mike Garza, we want to share a message from our friends at On Demand Storage. Are you tired of living in clutter? Do you need more space around your home or office? Are you sick of visiting your self-storage unit? Does your business need a way to securely and conveniently store excess materials? On Demand Storage will pick up your items directly from your location and put them in storage for you. When you want something put back, give us a call and we can deliver it back right away. We bring convenience to the outdated self-storage process. Visit ondemandStorage.com and submit an inquiry. During sign-up, mention the Futures League and receive 50% off your storage pickup. Once again, that's ondemandStorage, all one word, .com. We now return to this rockin' interview with Mike Garza. And back to the Futures League for a couple more questions before we get to quick hits. How did you end up in Brockton? What was the recruitment process for you for getting to Brockton?
So, really, I think it had a lot to do with Coach Wilk. I know, Tom Tracy, our GM, had reached out to me. Coach Wilk had, kind of brought up the Futures League to me and brought up, potentially coaching summer baseball. And then eventually, I was called by Tom Tracy, the GM of Brockton. And, I liked what I heard. I was really excited about, the potential opportunity and the experience that it could give me as a coach. And, I think through conversations there, it was the right fit for both sides. And now here we are.
Yeah, and we're glad to have you, of course. And before we get to our final segment, one final question. How about a message to Rock fans as we've officially reached August on release day?
We're excited as a team. We obviously, our goal is to bring a championship back to Brockton, and any support that they can give us, we'd love to see them out there. We've got a fun team. If you've had a chance to see us play or interact with our guys, they love being at the field. They love playing baseball. I think they're fun to watch. So, we'd love the support that fans bring, and we're looking forward to finishing the season strong.
Yeah, it's been very fun to watch the Rocks this year, and certainly they're hoping for success in the postseason, and you hopefully will lead them to that promised land, of course. And we now move on to our final segment. It's called Quick Hits. It's presented by Zephyr, the official on-field hat of the Futures League. Zephyr, high quality and innovative design since 1993. So, Mike, we got a couple more questions for our audience to get to know you better. Is that cool?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, let's roll. Favorite baseball teammate that you've ever played with?
Orlando Arcia. I was able to play with Orlando, through pro ball, I think might have been 2.5, 3 seasons. And, he was probably 5 years younger than me at the time, an 18, 19-year-old kid out of Venezuela. But his passion for the game was unbelievable. I mean, the amount of energy that he brought to the field as an 18-year-old. I mean, obviously he could play the game well, but he made it fun, and he made it fun for all of us to be around. He was a good personality, and he was a competitor. He's obviously, been fortunate enough to make it up to the big leagues. But just from an experience standpoint on the field, he had to be one of my favorites just because of, the amount of fun and smiles that he would bring to the game.
Yeah, fun, smiles, passion, energy. Those are all good adjectives for.
Reminds me of the Rocks. they're all having
trying.
fun. Yeah.
And then how about favorite ballpark that you've played in and one that you've coached in?
So favorite ballpark I've played in, or actually probably this would be both, but I'll give you two. So Fenway, had the opportunity to play there as a player, and then actually had an opportunity to coach there with Navy. Army Navy played a game in Boston in 2018. And then the second field would have to be, obviously recently coming out of Omaha would have to be TD Ameritrade, and just the environment and the atmosphere of that place is incredible. I mean, if you can't get alive and well for that game, there's you got something wrong.
Yeah, we figured Omaha would be on that list.
Yeah.
And then how about a sports stadium or sporting event that's on your bucket list?
That's a good one. I think I'd probably have to say Super Bowl. I've actually never been to a professional football game in person. So I would think, really either a football game period. But if I get to choose, I'd probably choose a Super Bowl over just a regular season game.
Yeah, let's get Mike Garza to a football game. I think it's time. And then how about favorite big league team and big league player, whether it's current or historical?
That's a tough one. We actually, myself and the guys were talking about this yesterday in the clubhouse. I actually don't have a team that I grew up as a favorite of. If I had to pick, I'd say the Houston Astros, and I know it's controversial over the last season or two, but the reason for that is just I was living in Houston during their World Series run, and prior to that in August, Hurricane Harvey had hit Houston and pretty much devastated that city, and devastated a lot of people's lives around there. And so what the Astros were able to accomplish, I think, kind of revived a city that I had spent 5-6 years living in, and really got to see the aftermath of. And I think it was a pretty cool experience that sports was able to bring people together in that way. So for me, it'd probably be the Astros. Favorite player, that's a tough one. I'll probably pass on it. I think there's just so many, right? There's so many young players in the game. There's so many veteran players in the game that are doing a good job, that are growing the game and are fun to watch. So, you've got guys like Fernando Tatis, right, that are just incredible. And I think there's going to be, even more that come through, really each and every season that are going to be, really fun players to watch and really give back to the game. So.
And when you were coming through the ranks, was there a player or a couple of players in particular that you tried to model your game after?
Not particularly. I think that's a dangerous game to play, right? You've got players who have unique abilities, who have skill sets that you may or may not have. I think to emulate those guys and to see the way that they go about their business is important, and it's something that can be valuable as a player. I think trying to model your game after someone who's in the big leagues can be very, very tricky, right? Those guys are there for a reason. They have tools and skill sets you may or may not have. And I think, really you got to just be true to yourself. You got to be the best player that you can be with your tools and your skill sets and the way that you play the game. And I think you can live with, what those results are, right? I think when you try to be somebody you're not, you end up underachieving just a little bit. So I didn't do that. I encourage our players not to do it as well. I encourage our guys to be the best version of themselves that they can be, and kind of push forward doing it that way. And then use these guys that have made it to the big leagues as role models from a standpoint of how their professionalism and how they go about their work and what they do on a daily basis.
Moving a little less serious, what is your walk-up song when you're coming up to the plate?
I used to change it all the time. I was really superstitious, but when I was in college, it was Danza Kuduro. In Wisconsin with the Timber Rattlers, it was Work Hard, Play Hard. I changed, like I said, I changed it all the time. So it was like if I didn't get a hit, I'd try and change it. It wasn't me. It was the walk-up song. So
would you text the press box?
No, we would. I'd give it a game or two.
Yeah.
But yeah, every now and then you'd have to blame it on something, right? It wasn't me. It was either the walk-up song or the bat or the umpire. So you had to pick one of those four to change.
Those What are some other superstitions?
So I'm less superstitious now as a coach. I mean, I say that we had a stretch. I think we lost 3 in a row, and here in Brockton, and I changed the lineup cards. I was writing them in black pen, as opposed to blue that I had used. We lost 3 in a row, and I didn't want to be superstitious, so I did it again. I think we lost that game too. So now I went back to writing our lineup cards in blue pen. Socks, like if I was doing well, I'd put socks on the same way. If I started with the left foot the day before, I'd do that. Like I said, now as a coach, it's a little bit different. I mean, I have things that I try to do, and really it's just more of a routine than anything else. But if something's working, you don't change it. You don't mess with it.
Oh, absolutely. And are you a bubblegum guy or sunflower seeds guy?
More sunflower seeds.
And last question of our quick hits segment presented by Zephyr. What's your favorite all-time baseball memory?
Man, right now it's got to be the dog pile in Columbia, South Carolina after we beat Dallas Baptist. It was pretty incredible.
How deep did you get in that dog pile?
I was more towards the top, and then I think I'm sure that the people underneath me felt that a little bit, and then I had 2 or 3 people on top of me, but it was fun. I like to think I got a little bit of air getting into it, or at least enough to get on top of it. But
we'll look on Twitter for the replay.
Yeah.
You got to do the swan dive or the belly flop. There's a ton of moves you could have done jumping into that dog pile for sure.
No doubt.
Well, Mike, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today. Best of luck with everything, and we can't wait to see you and the Rocks continue to make that playoff push for the rest of the season.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me, and thanks for everything you guys do for the league. It's much appreciated.
Of course. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, thank you again. And this has been episode 24 of season 3 of Back to the Futures, the official podcast of the Futures Collegiate Baseball League. We have new episodes coming out every Monday and Thursday. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see everyone soon.